So the Premier League has come back. So we've had a couple of weeks off for the international break, but finally we are back to the Premier League, and it feels good to be saying that. I really did enjoy the Spain game, but the other games I didn't really enjoy so much. I did a few watch-alongs. Wales vs Ireland was quite a good game, but the rest of them, like the friendlies, were just awful. So I'm really glad to say those are all over. We get back to the Premier League in a big few games going on. Some top of the table clashes, and it's going to be really interesting to see just how teams get on this week, especially with the Champions League coming up as well. It'll be really interesting to see how a couple of teams get on. But next, let's start with probably the game of the weekend, and that is the 12:30 kickoff between Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool. So Tottenham had a good start, 3 wins out of 3 before that 2-1 defeat to Watford the Sunday before the international break. Even better for Liverpool, 4 wins out of 4, conceding just 1 goal, and that was against Leicester. Alisson losing the ball before collecting the actual cross for Gazelle to hit it in. Tottenham have been okay, to be fair, at their sort of home ground. They won 4-1 last season and then drew 2-2 at Liverpool. But before that, they drew 1-1 at their home ground, 0-0. They lost 3-0 back in 2014. But for just over 4 years, they've been unbeaten at home against Liverpool. Liverpool have had the better of it away when they've been at home. But Spurs have been quite good at home. And that's not just in this fixture, but all fixtures. The last couple of seasons, they were unbeaten at their last season at White Hart Lane. And they only lost twice, I think, in the league. At Wembley, one to Manchester City and the other one was to Chelsea. So really tight. I'm not sure how this game will go. It could go either way. I think a win for Tottenham would ease the problems that the questions that have been asked after that defeat to Watford. Liverpool win, and that's a big statement of intent by them. But I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go 1-1. I think it'll be close, and I don't think there's a lot between the sides. Maybe Liverpool will edge it, maybe Tottenham will just edge it. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw there. Next, we get into the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and the first one is Bournemouth versus Leicester. So Bournemouth, they had a decent start. They have picked up 7 points from their first 12, which isn't bad. They only lost coming at Chelsea, drawing with Everton, and then winning against West Ham and Bournemouth. This time last season they had no points, so much better return than last season. Leicester City, they won their first home game against Wolves 2-0. They also beat Southampton 2-1 away, but they did lose to Liverpool and Manchester United. The last time these two met, they were both draws, but the last time there was a winner was at home to Bournemouth, when Bournemouth won 1-0. So I'm expecting another tight game, but I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. I'm going to go 2-1 to Bournemouth, getting another good victory as they look to maybe move away from the relegation zone and maybe push for the top half this time. That would be really good success for Bournemouth. Next, we go to Chelsea and Cardiff. Chelsea, they're 12 points from 12 wins against Huddersfield, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Bournemouth sees them with maximum points. Cardiff are yet to win any game, including their Carabao Cup game. Lost to Bournemouth on the opening day and then had 2 0-0 draws against Newcastle and Huddersfield for a 3-1 defeat in the Carabao Cup to Norwich, and then a 2-3 defeat to Arsenal. So I'm expecting a comfortable win here. I'm going to go for about 4-0 to Chelsea. I just can't see them beating them or getting anything. Cardiff, I'm expecting them to get trounced, maybe 3 or 4-0. But it to be comfortable in the end. The last 3 times they have played, Chelsea have won every single time. The last 2 at the home ground of Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, they have scored 4 in 2 4-1 wins. So maybe that'll be the score. But I'm expecting a comfortable win. Next, we have Huddersfield and Crystal Palace. This could be a relegation six-pointer. With Wilfried Zaha out with a groin injury, it could be interesting to see how they cope without him. They'll be without Hogg, who got sent off Huddersfield, but they've got 2 points from their first 4 fixtures, a draw against Cardiff and then a really good draw against Everton, a 1-1 draw there away from home. I think that was a really, really good point. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, they have won one game so far this season, a 2-0 victory over Fulham on the opening day, but they have had 3 consecutive losses against Southampton, Watford and Liverpool. They did win it in the Carabao Cup against Swansea. However, Huddersfield also lost that game. That was against Stoke. I think this one will be really tight, really, really tight indeed. But last season, the away team won both games. Huddersfield winning 3-0 on the opening day at Selhurst Park, and then Crystal Palace going there and getting their revenge, a 2-0 win that day. I'm going to go for a Huddersfield win. I'm going to go 1-0 to Huddersfield, getting their first 3 points of the season. That'll be massive for the club to get their first 3 points on the board and move up the table. Next we go to the champions Manchester City, who are facing Fulham. Manchester City will once again be without Kevin De Bruyne, Danilo and Bravo, who all have long-term injuries. It's unlikely that Tom Cairney will be playing for Fulham, who is a very, very good player. Really, really lucky to hold on to him. Manchester City are unbeaten so far. They won 2-0 in the Community Shield against Chelsea before wins against Arsenal, Huddersfield and Newcastle, and then a draw against Wolves as well. Fulham, on the other hand, they've lost their opening 2 games against Crystal Palace and Tottenham, 2-0 and 3-1, before 2 wins, one in the Carabao Cup, 4-2 win over Burnley, and then 2-0 win over Exeter. And then they went to Brighton and got a 2-2 draw. So they've not yet picked up anything on the road. Not a win on the road. They've picked up 1 point so far, and they should have seen that game out. The last time these two sides met, Manchester City won 5-0 on the way to their title-winning season. Before that, another 4-2 victory for Manchester City. The last time Fulham beat Manchester City was a very, very long time ago, 2009, so nearly 10 years ago. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory for Manchester City. I just can't see Fulham stopping them, to be fair. They just have so much quality. Newcastle and Arsenal. This one could go either way. Shelvey is understood to still be out, but we shall see. So just 1 point so far picked up by Newcastle, a 0-0 draw with Cardiff, but they've been in close in some games that have been really, really difficult. Newcastle faced Chelsea, Tottenham and Manchester City in their other 3 Premier League games. Arsenal, they've done what should have been asked of them, really. They lost to Manchester City and Chelsea in the opening 2 games before 2 wins against West Ham and Cardiff. The last time these two met, Newcastle got the victory at St James's Park, so maybe that will still be in the minds of the Arsenal players. I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to go for a tight Arsenal win, maybe 2-1 again. I think they'll get the win just about. But all these points add up. So it won't be good for them to be sitting on 1 point after 5 games if that was the case for Newcastle United. Next, we go to the late kickoff, and that's Watford against Manchester United. So Watford have had an incredible start to the season. Manchester United, they've been indifferent, but they will be without Marcus Rashford, who was sent off against Burnley. So Watford have won all 5 games so far this season, 4 in the league and 1 in the cup. The cup game going against Reading. They beat Brighton 2-0, Burnley 3-1, Palace 2-1, and then that 2-1 victory over Tottenham. Manchester United, they won on the opening day against Leicester before 2 consecutive defeats to Brighton and then to Tottenham before a 2-0 victory over Burnley. The last time these two met, Manchester United have got the victories last season, a 1-0 win over Watford, That was the last game of the season. Before a 4-2 win, that was just after the international break in November last year. Really, really good game that. But the last time Watford won was in 2016 when Mourinho was in charge. A 3-1 win with Troy Deeney scoring a penalty in that game. Really, really good win for them. I'm going to go for a Manchester United win. I'm going to go 2-0 to Manchester United. Usually when a team win the Manager of the Month award, usually they go on to lose and struggle in the next month. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for Manchester United to win that game, and that would be a really, really good 3 points indeed. On to Sunday's games, I'm really looking forward to the Everton West Ham game. Wolves Burnley not so much. So Wolves, they've had an alright start, I guess. A 2-2 draw on the opening day to Everton, coming behind twice to get a point before losing to Leicester. Then they got a really, really good point against Manchester City before a 2-0 victory over Sheffield Wednesday in the Carabao Cup. They also won 1-0 at West Ham. A late goal from Adama Traore. Burnley, they have failed to win a game so far this season. They've lost every game in the Premier League. They've drawn. They did pick up a point on the opening day against Southampton, but they've gone on to have consecutive losses against Watford, against Fulham, and against Manchester United. The last time these two met was in the Championship. The last time they met in the Premier League was all the way back in 2010 when Wolves got the 2-1 victory. I'm going to go for a Wolves win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Wolves win. I think they'll have too much for Burnley and they'll continue their terrible, terrible form. Next, we go to a side that are desperate for a win, and that is Everton versus West Ham. West Ham obviously sit on bottom of the league without a point so far this season. The only team in the top 6 tiers to be without a point. Really, really poor indeed. Everton, they are unbeaten, but they've had far too many draws for their liking. A 2-2 draw with Wolves before a 2-1 win over Southampton. They then drew with Bournemouth and Huddersfield with a 3-1 win over Rotherham in the Carabao Cup. Just one victory so far in all competitions for West Ham, coming against 10 men AFC Wimbledon. That ended 3-1 in the end, but losses against Liverpool, Bournemouth, Arsenal and Wolves. And I think it's going to be even more pressure under West Ham. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for Everton. I think they'll just have far too much. Finally, Monday Night Football we have this weekend, and that is Southampton versus Brighton, a South Coast derby for those two. So Southampton, they got off to a indifferent start, a draw against Burnley before 2 consecutive losses, one against Everton and one against Leicester City. But they have won their last 2 games. Brighton away when they won 1-0 in the Carabao Cup, and then a 2-0 victory over Palace. Brighton, their start hasn't been the best. A 2-0 defeat to Watford on the opening day before a great 3-2 win over Manchester United. But they did lose to Liverpool. Good performance, but they just couldn't get there. And then a 1-0 defeat against Southampton in the Carabao Cup for a 2-2 draw with Fulham. Not sure how this one will go. The 2 games last season were both draws, 1-1. I think maybe we could see that again. I'm expecting quite a boring game, maybe a goal either way, but I'm going to give the home advantage and I'm going to go with Southampton. 1-0 victory over Brighton. So that is the Premier League predictions, and then on Tuesday we have a bunch of games in Europe. Liverpool face PSG and Tottenham have Inter Milan, so 2 massive games for both clubs there. Also we have the Europa League as well on Thursday, and then Wednesday night we have some more games. We have Manchester City, Lyon, and Manchester United will be travelling to Young Boys, trying to get their first 3 points on the board. And then Thursday finally we have the Europa League. PAOK are hosting Chelsea, and then Arsenal, they are not on this list. Oh yeah, they are. Vorskla, they're playing, and that is a 8 o'clock kickoff. So a busy week in Europe for the English clubs, and then we go back into the Premier League next weekend. So really, really exciting. I hope you enjoyed the preview. I'll be doing reviews and watch-alongs for the whole Premier League season. So feel free to hit subscribe if you are new. Thanks so much for watching this video. My name is Mike, and I will see you soon.